Welcome. I am so glad you are here today. Imagine for a moment what your life would look like if you actually did every single thing you said you were going to do. Think about the goals you have set, the health targets you have made, or the financial milestones you have dreamt of reaching. Usually, the only thing standing between where you are now and where you want to be is one specific trait. That trait is self-discipline. It is the master key that opens every door to a better life. In this summary, we are going to dive deep into the core philosophy of Tracy, a man who has spent decades studying what separates high achievers from everyone else. The main purpose of this book is to show you that success is not a matter of luck or timing. Instead, it is a predictable result of how well you can control your own actions. This book serves as a practical manual to help you stop making excuses and start taking command of your destiny. There are a few high-level ideas we will explore today that form the backbone of this teaching. First, we will look at the idea that self-discipline is a habit that can be learned, much like a muscle that grows stronger with exercise. Second, we will discuss how discipline must be applied to every single area of your life, not just your work, to create true, lasting happiness. Finally, we will touch upon the concept of personal responsibility and why accepting that you are in the driver's seat is the first step toward any major breakthrough. By the time we finish, you will have a clear understanding of why self-discipline is the most important quality you can develop. It is the bridge between your goals and your accomplishments. If you are ready to stop letting excuses hold you back and finally take the steps toward the version of yourself you know you can become, then you are in the right place. Before we move into the core lessons of the book, if you find this summary helpful and want to hear more insights like this, please take a second to like this audio, share it with someone who needs a boost, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest scripts. Main summary: the blueprint for unstoppable discipline. The foundation of everything we are about to discuss rests on a very simple but profound definition of self-discipline. It is the ability to make yourself do what you should do, when you should do it, whether you feel like it or not. This is the starting point for all great achievements. The foundation of personal excellence. The first core point we need to understand is that self-discipline is the primary catalyst for personal success. In the book, the idea is presented that there are no shortcuts to greatness. Success is not something that happens to you, it is something you create through consistent, disciplined action. This means that your level of success in any endeavor will be in direct proportion to your level of self-discipline. This is important because most people wait for motivation to strike. They wait until they feel inspired or until the conditions are perfect. However, motivation is a feeling, and feelings are unreliable. Self-discipline, on the other hand, is a choice. When you practice discipline, you are essentially training your mind to overrule your emotions. You are telling your lower self, the part of you that wants ease and comfort, that your higher self is in charge. This builds a sense of self-respect and self-esteem that cannot be gained any other way. When you keep the promises you make to yourself, you begin to believe in your own power. For a short, relatable example, think about the act of waking up early. Your alarm goes off, and your body wants to stay in the warm bed. That is your emotion seeking comfort. But your discipline reminds you of the work you need to do. When you get out of bed despite the discomfort, you have won the first battle of the day. That small victory sets the tone for everything else that follows. Now we move to the next point, which builds on this idea of personal mastery by looking at how we view our own lives and our own choices. The power of total responsibility. The next core concept is the absolute necessity of accepting total responsibility for your life. The book teaches that the greatest enemy of self-discipline is the habit of making excuses. Most people have a favorite excuse, whether it is their upbringing, the economy, or their boss, that they use to justify why they aren't where they want to be. But the moment you make an excuse, you give away your power. You become a victim of your circumstances. Accepting responsibility means acknowledging that you are where you are and what you are because of yourself. Every choice you have made in the past has led you to this moment. This realization might feel heavy at first, but it is actually the most liberating thought you can have. If you are responsible for your current situation, it means you are also responsible for your future situation. You have the power to change it. Discipline is the tool you use to execute that change. The book emphasizes that high achievers spend their time thinking about solutions and actions, while low achievers spend their time thinking about who is to blame. This is vital because it shifts your mindset from passive to active. When you stop complaining and start acting, you regain control. You stop waiting for someone else to save you or for luck to find you. You realize that if it is meant to be, it is up to you. Consider a person who is unhappy with their career. They could spend years blaming the company culture or their lack of connections. But a disciplined person who accepts responsibility would instead spend that time learning new skills, networking, or looking for a new path. They take the no excuses approach and focus entirely on what they can control. Now we move to the next point, where we take these personal foundations and apply them to the world of work and financial achievement. Discipline in work and professional growth. The third core point focuses on how self-discipline translates directly into professional excellence and financial reward. The book highlights that in the world of work, your value is determined by the results you produce. To produce high-quality results, you must have the discipline to focus on your most important tasks and stay with them until they are finished. This is often described as the law of forced efficiency. There is never enough time to do everything, but there is always enough time to do the most important things. This idea is important because we live in an age of endless distraction. It is very easy to spend a whole day being busy without actually being productive. Self-discipline in the workplace means identifying the one or two tasks that have the greatest impact on your goals and giving them your full attention. It means saying no to minor tasks, social media, and office gossip so you can say yes to the work that matters. The book suggests that by simply increasing your productivity through discipline, you can move to the top of your field much faster than your peers. The reason this is so deep is that it links your character to your income. Your income is a reflection of the value you provide to the marketplace. By being disciplined, you provide more value, and therefore, you earn more. It is a direct cause and effect relationship. For example, imagine two salespeople. One starts their day by checking emails and chatting with coworkers. The other salesperson has the discipline to start making prospect calls immediately at 9 a.m., focusing on the hardest part of the job first. Over a year, the disciplined salesperson will inevitably have vastly higher results because they chose the difficult, high-value task over the easy, low-value one. Now we move to the next point, where we explore how discipline acts as a guard for your character and your integrity. The next core point emphasizes that self-discipline is the foundation of character. The book argues that integrity is the most important quality you can develop, and it is entirely dependent on your ability to discipline yourself. Integrity means being true to yourself and your values, even when no one is watching and even when it is difficult. It is the alignment between what you say you believe and how you actually act. This concept is vital because every time you exercise self-discipline to do the right thing, especially when there is a temptation to take the easy way out, you strengthen your character. Conversely, every time you compromise your values or take a shortcut, you weaken your character. Tracy suggests that your reputation is your most valuable asset, and your reputation is built on the consistency of your disciplined actions over time. Discipline allows you to resist the expediency factor, which is the human tendency to look for the quickest and easiest way to get what we want with little regard for the long-term consequences. Character is not something you are born with, it is something you forge through 1,000 small choices. When you have the discipline to be honest in small matters, you prepare yourself to be honest in large ones. This internal consistency creates a sense of peace and self-assurance. You don't have to worry about being found out because you are living in accordance with your highest principles. For a short, relatable example, consider a situation where you are given too much change at a store. The undisciplined mind might see it as a lucky break and keep the money. However, a person of disciplined character recognizes that keeping the money violates their integrity. By choosing to return the extra change, they reinforce their identity as an honest person. That small act of discipline strengthens their moral fiber for much larger challenges in the future. Now we move to the next point, where we transition from the internal world of character to the external world of setting and achieving major life goals. goal orientation, and persistent action. The next core concept is the link between self-discipline and goal setting. The book posits that goals are the fuel in the furnace of achievement. However, a goal without a disciplined plan is merely a wish. Most people have wishes, but high achievers have written goals accompanied by specific, disciplined daily actions. This process begins with clarity, knowing exactly what you want, and is sustained by the discipline to work toward that goal every single day without exception. This is important because the path to any significant goal is filled with obstacles, setbacks, and temporary failures. Without self-discipline, most people quit at the first sign of trouble. Discipline provides the persistence required to keep moving forward when the initial excitement of a new goal has worn off. Tracy explains that persistence is actually self-discipline in action. Your ability to persist in the face of adversity is the measure of your belief in yourself and your ability to succeed. Deeply understood, this means that the primary value of setting a goal is not just the achievement of the goal itself, but the person you must become in order to achieve it. To reach a high-level goal, you must develop high-level discipline. This transformation is the real reward. The book encourages the 7-step process for goals, which includes writing them down, setting deadlines, and, most importantly, doing something every day that moves you toward your major goal. For example, if someone has a goal to write a book, the undisciplined approach is to wait for the muse or a large block of free time. The disciplined approach is to commit to writing 500 words every morning before work, regardless of how they feel. This daily, disciplined habit is what eventually produces a finished manuscript, while the wisher is still waiting for the perfect time to start. Now we move to the next point, which explores how discipline applies to our personal well-being and physical health. Discipline in health and physical fitness. The 6th core point focuses on the discipline required to maintain a long, healthy, and energetic life. The book states that your body is the only place you have to live, and its condition is a direct result of your disciplined, or undisciplined, habits regarding diet, exercise, and rest. Tracy points out that most health problems in our modern world are diseases of choice, meaning they are caused by a lack of discipline in what we eat and how much we move. This is critical because your energy levels dictate your productivity and your mood. It is very difficult to be highly disciplined in your work if you are constantly tired or physically unwell due to poor lifestyle choices. The book advocates for the discipline to eat high-quality foods, eliminate sugar and flour, and engage in regular physical activity. It also emphasizes the importance of rest, noting that a disciplined person knows when to stop and recover so they can maintain peak performance over the long haul. The depth of this idea lies in the concept of delayed gratification. Health requires you to give up a small, immediate pleasure, like a sugary snack, for a much larger, long-term gain, like a lean, energetic body. Discipline is the tool that allows you to make that trade over and over again, every single day. By mastering your physical appetites, you prove to yourself that you are in control of your life. A relatable example is the decision to go to the gym after a long day at work. You might feel tired and want to sit on the couch. That is the immediate gratification choice. The disciplined choice is to put on your workout clothes and go anyway, knowing that you will feel better and have more energy afterward. Over time, these small choices accumulate into a completely different physical reality. Now we move to the next point, where we examine how discipline influences our financial future and our peace of mind regarding money. Financial discipline and the habit of saving. The next core concept deals with self-discipline in the realm of money and personal finance. The book teaches that financial independence is not a matter of how much money you make, but how much you keep. This requires the discipline to live below your means and to save and invest a portion of your income consistently. Tracy identifies the law of accumulation, which states that every great financial achievement is the result of hundreds of small, disciplined efforts that nobody ever sees. This is important because we live in a consumer-driven society that constantly encourages us to spend everything we earn and more. Without discipline, it is almost impossible to build wealth. The book suggests the 1% formula, where you begin by saving just 1% of your income and gradually increase that amount as you become more disciplined. This habit changes your relationship with money from one of stress and scarcity to one of security and opportunity. The deeper lesson here is about self-control. Financial discipline is the ultimate test of your ability to think long-term. When you save money, you are essentially buying your future freedom. You are choosing to have options later instead of toys now. This builds a sense of power because you know that you are prepared for emergencies and able to take advantage of opportunities. For instance, consider the habit of impulse buying. An undisciplined person sees something they want and buys it immediately on credit. A disciplined person has the rule to wait 24 hours before making any non-essential purchase. Often, after 24 hours, the urge to buy has passed, and they have saved money that can be put toward their long-term financial goals. Now we move to the next point, focusing on how discipline affects our most intimate and important connections with others. The eighth core point explores how self-discipline is the essential ingredient for healthy, lasting relationships. While we often think of discipline in terms of work or fitness, the book explains that it is equally necessary when interacting with the people we love and work with. Discipline in relationships means controlling your natural impulses to react, judge, or dominate, and instead choosing to respond with patience, kindness, and understanding. This is important because our quality of life is largely determined by the quality of our relationships. Tracy points out that the greatest gift you can give to another person is the gift of listening with your full attention. However, listening is a disciplined act. It requires you to silence your internal monologue, put away distractions, and truly focus on the other person's words and feelings. Furthermore, discipline is required to maintain the emotional bank account of a relationship. This means consistently making small deposits of courtesy and appreciation while avoiding the withdrawals caused by criticism or anger. The depth of this lesson lies in the mastery of the ego. Most relationship conflicts arise when one or both people feel the need to be right. It takes immense self-discipline to let go of the need for validation and instead prioritize the harmony of the connection. The book emphasizes that a disciplined person takes responsibility for their part in any conflict and is the first to apologize or seek a resolution. This level of self-control fosters trust and respect, which are the bedrock of any successful partnership. For a short, relatable example, think about a moment when a friend or partner says something that hurts your feelings or makes you angry. The undisciplined response is to snap back with a sharp comment, which usually escalates the tension. The disciplined response is to take a breath, count to 10, and choose a calm way to express your feelings or simply listen to their perspective first. That small moment of self-restraint can prevent hours or even days of unnecessary conflict. Now we move to the next point, where we shift our focus to the one resource that, once spent, can never be recovered: our time. Mastery over time and productivity. The ninth core concept is the discipline of time management. Brian Tracy often says that time management is really life management. The book teaches that your ability to organize your day and focus on your most valuable tasks is the outward manifestation of your internal discipline. If you cannot manage your time, it is unlikely you can manage any other part of your life. The core of this discipline is the habit of setting priorities and then sticking to them. This is vital because we all have the same 24 hours in a day, yet some people achieve 10 times more than others. The difference is not talent, it is the discipline to work on the things that matter most. The book introduces the ABCDE method for prioritization. An A task is something that has serious consequences if it isn't done, while a D task is something you can delegate. The disciplined person has the iron will to start on their one task immediately and stay with it until it is 100% complete. This is often called single handling, and it is one of the most powerful productivity tools in existence. Deeply understood, time management is a form of self-respect. When you discipline your time, you are saying that your life and your goals are important. You stop letting other people's emergencies or trivial distractions dictate your schedule. You become the architect of your own day. Tracy also emphasizes the discipline of punctuality, noting that being on time is a sign of a disciplined person who respects both themselves and others. A relatable example is the habit of planning your next day the night before. It takes about 10 minutes of discipline to sit down and write a list of your top priorities for the following day. However, those 10 minutes save you hours of drifting or wondering what to do next when you wake up. By having a disciplined plan, you hit the ground running, which dramatically increases your confidence and your output. Now we move to the next point, looking at how personal discipline expands outward to influence and guide the people around us. The discipline of leadership and influence. The 10th core point examines the relationship between self-discipline and leadership. The book makes a very clear argument: you cannot lead others until you can lead yourself. Leadership is not a title or a position, it is the influence you have over others, and that influence is rooted in your personal character and your self-control. A leader who lacks discipline will eventually lose the trust and respect of their followers. This is important because true leadership requires a high level of emotional intelligence and the ability to stay calm under pressure. When things go wrong, the undisciplined person reacts with fear, blame, or anger. The disciplined leader, however, has the self-control to stay focused on the solution and to provide a sense of stability for the team. The book highlights that leaders are always on stage. People are constantly watching their behavior to see if it matches their words. Therefore, the most powerful leadership tool you possess is your own example. The depth of this point is found in the concept of self-sacrifice. A disciplined leader is willing to do the things that others are not willing to do. They are the first to arrive, the last to leave, and the ones who take the most responsibility when things fail while giving away the credit when things succeed. This level of self-governance creates a magnetic personality that naturally draws people toward them. People want to follow someone who clearly has a sense of direction and the discipline to stay the course. For example, imagine a manager who tells their team that they need to be more organized and focused, yet that manager's own desk is a mess and they are constantly late for meetings. The team will likely ignore the advice because the manager lacks the discipline to model the behavior. On the other hand, a manager who is consistently disciplined and organized will find that their team naturally begins to mirror those traits without a word being said. Now we move to the next point, where we explore the discipline required to keep your mind sharp and your skills relevant in a changing world. The 11th core point highlights the necessity of lifelong learning. The book argues that we are currently living in a knowledge-based economy, where your most valuable financial asset is your earning ability, your capacity to get results that people will pay you for. Because knowledge and technology are changing so rapidly, your earning ability is either increasing or decreasing every day. It never stays the same. The discipline of continuous learning is what ensures that your value keeps rising throughout your career. This is important because many people stop learning the moment they finish their formal education. They settle into a routine and rely on what they already know. However, Tracy suggests that if you aren't moving forward, you are essentially sliding backward. He introduces the 3% formula, which suggests that you should invest 3% of your income back into yourself through books, seminars, and programs. By dedicating yourself to becoming a student for life, you stay ahead of the curve and maintain a significant competitive advantage. This habit doesn't just increase your bank account, it increases your confidence and your sense of mastery over your field. The depth of this idea is found in the connection between learning and mental health. A mind that is constantly expanding is a mind that stays young and vibrant. Discipline is required to turn off the television or put down the phone and pick up a book that challenges you. It requires the self-control to spend your commute listening to educational audio rather than just entertainment. Over time, these small periods of study compound into a massive treasury of knowledge that sets you apart from 99% of the population. For example, consider a professional who spends just 30 to 60 minutes every morning reading about the latest developments in their industry. At first, the difference between them and their coworkers might be unnoticeable. But after a year of disciplined study, they will have read over 20 books. After 5 years, they will be an expert in their field, often earning several times more than those who stopped learning the day they got the job. Now we move to the next point, where we discuss how discipline allows us to face the psychological barriers that often hold us back from our greatest potential. The discipline of courage and overcoming fear. The next core concept is the discipline of courage. The book explains that fear is the single greatest obstacle to success and happiness in adult life. Whether it is the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, or the fear of the unknown, these emotions can paralyze us and prevent us from taking the risks necessary to grow. Courage is not the absence of fear, rather, it is the discipline to act in spite of fear. Brian Tracy notes that everyone feels afraid, but the disciplined person forces themselves to confront the fear until it disappears. This is vital because fear grows when you avoid it. The more you procrastinate on a difficult task or a tough conversation, the larger the fear becomes in your mind. However, when you discipline yourself to face the thing you fear, the fear shrinks and your courage grows. The book suggests the act as if principle. If you lack the courage to do something, act as if you already have that courage. By going through the motions of a brave person, you eventually begin to feel the emotions of a brave person. This discipline of confronting the dragon is what allows you to break through the plateaus in your life. Deeply understood, courage is a habit that is developed through practice. Every time you do something that scares you, you make it easier to be brave the next time. This applies to everything from public speaking to starting a new business to being honest in a difficult relationship. By mastering your fears, you gain a sense of personal power and freedom that is unavailable to those who are ruled by their anxieties. A relatable example is the fear of making a cold call or approaching a stranger for a business opportunity. An undisciplined person will find a dozen other things to do to avoid making that call. A disciplined person acknowledges the fear but makes the call anyway. Once the call is over, they almost always realize that the reality was not nearly as bad as the fear they had imagined. Now we move to the next point, where we focus on how discipline shapes our mental approach to the inevitable challenges of life. Problem solving and solution orientation. The 13th core point is the discipline of becoming solution-oriented. The book teaches that your success in life will be largely determined by your ability to solve the problems that arise on the path to your goals. Most people react to problems by becoming upset, looking for someone to blame, or feeling like a victim. A disciplined person, however, immediately shifts their focus from the problem to the solution. They train their mind to ask, "What is the next step?" rather than "Why did this happen?" This is important because your brain is a highly efficient problem-solving machine, but it only works on the questions you give it. If you ask, "Why am I so unlucky?" your brain will find reasons to support that thought. If you discipline yourself to ask, "How can I solve this?" your brain will generate creative ideas and options. Tracy explains that high achievers have a positive mental attitude, which is really just the discipline to keep the mind focused on where they want to go and what they need to do next. The depth of this lesson is that problem solving is a skill that improves with use. The more problems you solve, the better you become at solving them, and the larger the problems you are qualified to handle. In any organization, the people who get promoted and paid the most are the ones who can handle the most complex problems. By disciplining yourself to stay calm and analytical when things go wrong, you demonstrate leadership and competence. For instance, if a project at work hits a major snag, the undisciplined reaction is to spend hours complaining to colleagues about the unfairness of the situation. The disciplined, solution-oriented person spends that same time creating a list of 3 possible workarounds and then immediately begins testing the first one. They don't waste energy on emotion, they spend it on execution. Now we move to the next point, where we conclude our exploration of the main summary by looking at the ultimate goal of all self-discipline: the discipline of peace of mind. The final core concept in this section is the discipline of maintaining peace of mind as your master goal. The book suggests that the ultimate measure of your success is not your money, your fame, or your possessions, but how much inner peace you feel on a daily basis. Achieving this peace requires the discipline to let go of negative emotions, forgive others, and live in alignment with your highest values. Peace of mind is the standard against which all your other choices should be measured. This is important because it is possible to achieve great external success while being miserable on the inside. True success is only possible when you are at peace with yourself. This requires the discipline to refuse to get angry or upset over things you cannot control. It also requires the discipline of solitude, taking time each day to sit quietly and listen to your inner voice. In the silence, you find the clarity and the strength to stay disciplined in the noisy world outside. Deeply understood, peace of mind is the result of self-mastery. When you know that you are a disciplined person who takes responsibility, works hard, and lives with integrity, you naturally feel a sense of calm. You are no longer at war with yourself. The power of self-discipline is ultimately the power to create a life that feels good from the inside out. As we bring this journey through the principles of self-discipline to a close, it is worth reflecting on the central truth that has woven its way through every lesson we have discussed. That truth is simple: your life is a masterpiece in progress, and self-discipline is the brush you use to paint it. Tracy has shown us that while talent, intelligence, and opportunity are all valuable, they are effectively useless without the iron will to direct them toward a specific purpose. The power of self-discipline lies in its ability to give you complete command over your internal world. Throughout this summary, we have seen how discipline acts as the glue that holds your goals together. It is what transforms a vague desire for health into a physical reality. It is what turns a dream of financial independence into a stable bank account. And it is what takes a seed of potential and grows it into a career of leadership and influence. One of the most profound ideas from the book is the iron law of the universe, which is the law of cause and effect. This law states that everything happens for a reason. If you want to achieve the same results as the most successful people in our society, you simply need to do the same things they do, over and over again, until you get the same outcome. Self-discipline is what allows you to engage in those causes even when you would rather take a shortcut or make an excuse. It is the bridge between where you are and where you want to go. It is also important to remember the connection between discipline and self-esteem. Every time you force yourself to do something difficult but necessary, you like yourself more. You respect yourself more. Your self-image improves, and you begin to carry yourself with a new level of confidence. This creates a powerful upward spiral. The more you discipline yourself, the more you like yourself, and the more you like yourself, the easier it becomes to stay disciplined. The book reminds us that everything is hard before it is easy. The first few times you try to wake up early, save money, or stay focused on a difficult task, it will feel uncomfortable. You will face the resistance of your old habits. But if you can persist through that initial period of discomfort, the new, disciplined behavior will eventually become a habit. Once it becomes a habit, it becomes part of who you are. You no longer have to struggle to be disciplined, you simply are a disciplined person. As you move forward from this summary, don't feel overwhelmed by the need to be perfect in every area at once. Start where you are. Pick one area, perhaps your health, your work, or your time management, and commit to a no excuses policy for the next 30 days. Use the tools we have discussed, like the 24-hour rule for spending or the ABCDE method for productivity. Small, disciplined actions, taken consistently over time, will inevitably lead to massive changes in your reality. The ultimate reward of self-discipline is freedom. It is the freedom from being a victim of your emotions or your circumstances. It is the freedom to design a life that reflects your highest values and your biggest dreams. By taking the long-term view and choosing delayed gratification over immediate ease, you unlock a level of personal power that most people will never know. Thank you for spending this time investing in yourself. The very fact that you have stayed until the end of this summary shows that you already possess the most important quality for success, the willingness to learn and grow. Now, take that first disciplined step. Your future self will thank you for it.